Good afternoon. I would like to thank all of you for joining us this afternoon for the Dallas ISD's MWBE vendor registration process. We are so excited for you to join us this afternoon to learn how to become a registered Dallas ISD vendor. My name is Stephanie Broughton, and I'm one of the MWBE coordinators with Dallas Independent School District, and we have a jam-packed session for you today, full of information about doing business with Dallas ISD and about getting your registration completed. So if you are ready to complete your registration today, there's no better time than now. And so we're going to talk about what you need to complete your registration. We have some members of the iSupplier team with us today. So we are going to be available to answer your questions as well as get you registered as a Dallas ISD vendor. So we're going to wait just a few seconds to let a couple people join us as they log into the webinar, but we'll be getting started right away. All right, so let me go ahead and tell you guys a little bit about the MWBE program or department. The MWBE department at Dallas Independent School District is designed to help minority-owned and women-owned businesses as they navigate through doing business with the district. We are here to assist business owners with vendor registrations like we're doing today, as well as any other information as they navigate through doing business with the district. We do offer free webinars, and now actually starting next month will be our first face-to-face workshop since 2019. So definitely stay tuned for additional information on that information. So right now, I want to go ahead and share with you guys the Dallas ISD's MWBE webpage. Let me get that back up for you. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the MWBE page and some of the amazing webinars that we do have coming up for you. So as you can see, this is the MWBE webpage. We are hosting our Hispanic Heritage Month series on Facebook Live. And tomorrow we're going to have Sergio Godinez on from Versa Printing. So you can check that out at 10:30 tomorrow. And then on October the 7th, we'll have Rose Kohut, who is one of the directors in procurement services, joining us on October the 7th at 3 p.m. And then I also wanted to highlight, we do have on October the 18th, a Make Your Small Business More Accessible webinar in collaboration with Google. So definitely make sure you check that out. And if you're not currently registered for that event, please go to our webpage at dallasisd.org/MWBE to get registered for that particular webinar. So I definitely want to make sure that I showed you guys our webpage so that you can go there. And as you can see, it's full of information. If you just look onto the left tab, you'll find a bunch of different information to help you navigate through doing business with Dallas ISD. And so now we're going to go ahead and jump back to our presentation. So let's get started here. And so now I want to talk to you guys about the iSupplier department. We do have an amazing iSupplier team that's led by Sherry Williams, who is the e-commerce supervisor. We also have Connie Boston, who is a buyer assistant, iSupplier specialist, Victor Hendrix, who is the e-commerce buyer assistant, and Michelle Herrera, who is the iSupplier assistant buyer. And we are fortunate enough to have Victor and Michelle with us today, who will be talking to us a little bit about the iSupplier team, as well as getting registered as a Dallas ISD vendor. Michelle, Victor.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. Or good afternoon, I'm sorry.
Absolutely. Good afternoon. I know the day kind of went by so fast. So good afternoon to you and Victor. Thank you guys so much for joining us. And so could you guys tell our attendees a little bit about what the iSupplier department does and kind of your roles with the iSupplier team?
I'll go first. So I am an assistant buyer here with iSupplier. And so what we do is we help vendors get registered with the district, and all vendors should be registered with the district. So we kind of walk them through that process and what that looks like, and then get them approved, walk them through any updates that's required throughout the years. Also helping with badging and background checks as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Michelle, for joining us. Victor.
Yes, and then from that point, once you do have the proper documents, I'm sure that we'll be discussing in a few moments. When it comes to me, I am the first approval of the registrations, and it'll go through a couple of steps of approval. And then we're good at communicating with whatever information that you leave for us in regards to email, phone number, any of those items. We'll respond back to you, whether all is clear or if anything is needed to approve your file. And so I'll kind of see over that part, and then we push it forward after it's completed.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for sharing that information with our attendees. And I just want to let our attendees know the iSupplier team is a wonderful team. They are available to assist you as you navigate through getting registered as a Dallas ISD vendor. So thank you guys so much. And we're going to be bringing Michelle and Victor back with us later, and they're going to talk to you guys a little bit more about getting registered as a Dallas ISD vendor. And so now we're going to just continue on with our presentation and talk about why is it important to get registered as a vendor. And a lot of you are probably registered at other entities, but just know that you have to get registered with each entity individually. So even if you're registered with another independent school district, you still have to get registered with Dallas Independent School District. And we're going to tell you why that's so important. You will receive alerts from the district based on the category codes that you select when you register on opportunities that's available in your area of expertise. So you definitely want to make sure that you get your registration in, get the correct category codes in, so that you can receive those bid notifications. And it also alerts the district that you're interested in doing business. We want to know about your company. We want to know that you're interested in doing business with the district. So these are some of the reasons why it's so important to get registered, and also to receive payment. So after you become an awarded vendor, that is how the district knows how to pay you. And that's why it's important to go over this important information on how to get registered as a vendor. So therefore you can have all the information that you need to be prepared to become a vendor, because the iSupplier system is all connected here at Dallas ISD. That's how they connect with the accounting software. It's all kind of one system, but different modules. And so when you include that information, that's how the district knows this is how we need to pay this particular vendor once you do start doing work with the district and start getting contracts. Okay. And so I just want to check. So Julie, thank you so much for saying hello, and thank you and welcome for joining us. And, we're so happy to have all of you join us, but thank you again for greeting us this morning. We definitely appreciate that. And so now I want to talk a little bit about the approved vendors versus awarded vendors. So approved or registered vendors versus awarded vendors. And I think this is a part that confuses a lot of vendors when they get registered with Dallas ISD, is when you go through the registration process, which is what we're going to do today, and you're approved from that process, that does not necessarily give you the green light to do business. It does not guarantee that you'll get a contract with the district. In order to do that, you're going to have to respond to either an RFP or any other contracting opportunities that the district has. But the most common ones are RFPs on the goods and services side, as well as the CSPs for construction services. So you want to make sure that you understand that, because sometimes vendors, business owners will communicate with a school And then they will let the school know, hey, I'm an approved vendor, so I can do business with you guys. When in fact that those terms are unfortunately frequently interchanged, but they mean two different things. You cannot do business with the district as an approved vendor or as a registered vendor. You have to have a contract with the district in order to be able to do business with the district. Now, of course, there are some exceptions to that rule, and that would include anything that does not require a contract. So say, for instance, like a DJ or a photographer or something like that, where it doesn't necessarily require a contract, but you're still going to do service and business with the district. However, you still would have to be a registered vendor, okay? And then one of the other things that I forgot to mention as it relates to why it's so important to become a registered vendor is so that you can submit your bids electronically. If you're interested in submitting your bids electronically, that's the only way that you can do it, is if you're already a registered vendor. Now, currently, we're only accepting electronic bids for the goods and services side. The construction side is not currently accepting bids at this time. So you can only submit electronic bids on the goods and services side. Now, if you choose to submit paper bids, you're still able to do that as well. However, you can only do that if you're a registered vendor. And make sure that you give yourself enough time in between becoming a registered vendor and responding to a solicitation. And we'll talk a little bit more about that during the tips session of this webinar. So just stay tuned for that. And so in order for you to become an awarded vendor, you're going to have to know where to find these amazing opportunities that the district does have available for you. So I'm going to go ahead and go over to the web page to show you where those opportunities can be found. So if you type in your little URL box here, dallasisd.org/opportunities, that will take you to the opportunities page. Okay, so those opportunities can be found here. These are the supplier opportunities here. And then if you want construction opportunities, you would just click here. Now, this first set of numbers here is the RFP number. And then this last set of numbers is the sourcing number, which is how you would respond if you're bidding electronically. Sourcing and iSupplier are two different systems here at Dallas ISD. So you cannot submit your bids in the same portal that you complete your vendor registration in, and vice versa. You cannot complete your vendor registration in the sourcing portal, which is where you would submit your proposals. And I think we have a question in there. And guys, if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to use the chat box and the Q&A box. Yes, it will, Casey. So this will be available later for usage. So, because it is such amazing information, and it can definitely help you as you continue your journey with doing business with Dallas ISD. But again, this is where you can find the opportunities, and the URL is also on the bottom of the slide. Once I go back to the slide, and I'll send you copies of the slides. If you would like copies of the slides, please put that in the chat and I'll make sure that you get copies of the slides. So we will make sure you get those. And again, so this is where you can find the opportunities, and hopefully you guys will find an opportunity that you see right now that you can apply for. So just make sure you meet those deadline dates and those times, because procurement services is serious about those deadline dates and times. And unfortunately, if you do not meet the deadline date and time, your bid will not be evaluated. So again, this is where you would find those opportunities. So hopefully you guys will take advantage of those opportunities. So let's jump back over to our presentation, and I'm going to be kind of jumping back and forth. So I hope you guys, are okay with that, and make sure that if it's too fast, don't hesitate to ask a question and let me know if I need to go back or, forward or whatever you need to make sure that you're able to get this information. And so right now I'm going to have Michelle Herrera come back and talk to you guys about the information that you will need to complete your vendor registration. Michelle?
Oh, okay. So the documentation that's required when submitting vendor registration is your W-9, and that's going to be the current W-9, which is the 2018 version. So as you see here on the top left corner where it says W-9, it will right underneath it, it will say 2018. So you want to make sure that it's that version of it and not the older ones, not a 2017 or 14 or 16. Because it will get rejected if it's not the 2018 version. Other than that, that is the only required documentation that has to be attached to your registration. Now, there is a felony conviction and a conflict of interest questionnaire. And it's 2 questions within the registration that you have to answer. If you fail to answer those, your registration will be sent back. You also are required to submit commodity codes. So whatever commodity codes, as Stephanie mentioned earlier, that pertain to your business, you have to select something. And that's really for your benefit. That helps the district or procurement services be able to notify you in regards to bids. So if the bid is pertaining to your business, they go in and select category codes, and any vendors that are under those category codes will be notified. So it's very important that you select the category codes that pertain to your business. And if you're not sure, select it. You know, it doesn't necessarily mean that you always have to respond when you get a notification, but it's better that you select everything that you feel pertains to your business so you don't miss an opportunity, because we do not want you to miss that opportunity with the district. Also having a good contact phone number and email. Those are very imperative because there's times where we need updates, you know, within the next year or 2 years, whenever our system decides that we have to have updates, we want to be able to contact you right away. And so if it is not a good contact, it delays us from making sure that, again, you get updated and notified on bids. Along with that, I'm trying to make sure. So we need contact information. You have to have your W-9, your felony and conflict of interest. Other than that, I think that's the only required documentation. You do need banking information if you choose to select electronic payment. There are different forms of payment options that we have, but if you're going to select electronic, you have to make sure you enter a valid bank account number and routing number. And I believe that's all I have.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Michelle. And also, we want to make sure that they have their tax ID number readily available. And all of the things that we're telling you guys today is just in order to help expedite this process. And making sure that all your information is updated is extremely important. I would advise you, anytime you make a change, whether it be your phone number, your address, that you make sure you update that information in iSupplier. And also just periodically check an iSupplier, because even if you're an awarded vendor and your iSupplier information is not updated, it can stop orders. Okay, if your profile is flagged, and it could just be missing a couple check boxes, but if you're missing anything, it can stop you from getting business. So that's why it's so important for you to keep that information updated, refresh it, just double, check it every now and then. So I just wanted to make sure that we highlighted that, so therefore you would know. Michelle, did you have anything else to add?
Yes. So there is one thing that I just want to remind everyone is, if you already have an existing account with the district, thank you. But also, if you know that someone is no longer with the company and they are your admin or the person that you left in charge to make sure that this is up to date, please make sure that you log back in and update that, because those notifications will go to that person. And if that person is no longer with your company, then you probably won't get the notifications unless you have access to their email. So it's imperative that you make sure that your account is up to date, because again, we don't want you to miss out with any opportunities with the district.
That is a great point, Michelle. Thank you so much for adding that very important information to this conversation. So thank you again for that. And so now we're going to talk a little bit, we're going to have Victor come back and talk to us a little bit about the vendor registration approval process. Victor?
Thank you, Ms. Stephanie. Of course, I concur with everything that Michelle just mentioned. And so with the approval process, I'm the, I guess you would say, the first approver of all of the files that come through for our prospective supplier registrations. And so that's a good thing, because we go in to make sure that all requested documents and all information is entered in correctly. And in regards to what Michelle just mentioned, it is very imperative that all information as far as in your contact directory is up to date and is correct. Because if there is something that perhaps we need, for instance, Michelle mentioned an updated 2018 W-9 form is always required at this point. That is the most current W-9 form that is used by the IRS. And sometimes we have prospective suppliers that will come in to register, but they forget to attach a W-9. So in that case, if your contact information is correct in the portal there, then we can reach back out to you or send the file back to you to request that item to you. So we do everything that we can to make sure that it's successfully executed as possible. And so we do communicate just to make sure that we can get everything through for you. But we overlook everything and then we send it through. The registration process, after you're done with that part, the approval process normally does not take too long. It depends on how the information is presented and then the time that you present it in. But other than that, we make sure that we communicate with you to get that approved. Thank you, Ms. Stephanie.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Victor. So as he indicated, the approval process doesn't take that long if you have all of your information readily available and everything is correct, that they don't have to contact you to get clarification on any information or to ask you to attach any information or provide any additional details, then the process should be as smooth as possible. And so thank you so much, Victor, for providing that information. And we're going to now go ahead and move on to some tips. Okay, so we want to make sure that you have some tips to help you with this process. I kind of want to talk a little bit about something that Michelle highlighted and provide you with a tip with that. So Michelle indicated that if you have any employees that used to work at your company that no longer works at your company, but the emails are still going through there and it's not being monitored, you could be missing out on a lot of information. So I would recommend that you create a general email box for your business. It could be a general email box that several people have access to. So therefore you can get that information, because the district recently had an overhaul of our iSupplier program, and all of our vendors, whether you were new or old, had to go in there and reset your password. And we also changed how we accept the forms. And if you did not complete that process, you remember earlier when I said, even if you're in there and you don't have all your information updated, you can have a flag and no one will be able to place orders with you. You don't want that to happen. So it's so important for you to update your information. So having that general email box for your business is essential if you have multiple employees and you have a specific employee that you have your bid information going to, or any type of pertinent information that could deem your business as an awarded vendor, or even a vendor that can apply for any solicitations that we put out. One of the other things that I want to tell you is the iSupplier portal does time out. So gathering up all the information that you're going to need is very important to the process so that you can slide through without having any problems. and not having to start over, okay? And so in order to be able to do that is you have to be prepared. You have to be prepared for the information that you're going to have to submit in the portal. And also know your category codes. For those of you who pre-registered, I sent over a listing of the category codes so that you can look through those. Now, I know some of you are going to probably say, well, you know, my particular area of expertise is not listed here. So what do I do? You can find something that's very similar to your area of expertise and use that code. With that being said, it's going to be essential that you're proactive with looking at the opportunities page that I showed you earlier on. So you can look at the opportunities to see if there's an opportunity that's available for you, especially if there's no category code with your specific area of expertise. You're going to have to be proactive and look at those pages to see if an opportunity is available for you. Don't be afraid to click on an opportunity that you see, because they can only include so much in the title. So the scope of work is where you want to see if that information or that particular solicitation is right for your business. And you also want to make sure you complete, sign, save your W-9 form, because that's the only physical form that you will actually have to upload into the system. So you want to make sure you have all of that stuff ready in your computer to upload in there. And do not add dashes in your EIN number or your social security number, or whatever number that you're utilizing for your business. And then you also want to make sure you have your accounting number and your routing number readily available. It's amazing how many numbers, you know, we have to remember. So just, you know, maybe write all of this information down. If you don't have it memorized, just have it written down. So when you get ready to do this information, you will be able to have that information processed, okay? And then also you want to keep your information updated. You know, we've emphasized that repeatedly during this particular webinar, the importance of keeping your information updated. And that's if your business is active. And also that's another red flag for us. If your information is not updated, that lets us know that your business is not active. You're not actively and being proactive with your business. So you want to make sure that you keep that information updated to let us know that your business is a thriving business, that you are ready to do business with Dallas ISD. So when we need to contact you for services or products, we won't have a problem doing that. And then write down your password and your vendor number. That's one of the common things that we get a lot, is vendors forgetting their password. And it's so easy to do. I completely get it, because we have so many different passwords and numbers to remember, from our cell phones to our computers to voicemail, whatever passwords that you have to remember, not to mention phone numbers, right? Because most of us barely remember phone numbers anymore because we have our cell phones. So we're out of the habit of memorizing numbers. So just either write them down or use like a password. They have those softwares or apps where you can put your passwords in so that you won't have to try to write everything down or memorize everything. So utilize the tools that are available, or just write it down. And then also, iSupplier does not accept proposals. I mentioned this earlier, and this is very important because we've had vendors who wait until the last minute to submit a proposal, and they try to submit it within the iSupplier portal, and then they end up missing the deadline date because they've gone to the wrong portal to submit their proposal. So that's something we definitely don't want to happen to you. And the fact that you're here with us today lets us know that you want to make sure that you get your information correctly input into the system. And we are very appreciative of that. And so now it's time for us to get registered. So before we go into the getting registered part, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I'm going to check to see if anyone has any questions before we move on. I just want to check on that to make sure that no one has any questions. So do we have any questions before we move on to our session. Okay, I'm looking at a question here. Let me see if I can get this over. Okay, no problem. So it was more of a comment than a question. So definitely want to make sure that we get you guys covered with that. So let's get started with the vendor registration process. So when you go to the Dallas ISD website, you're going to type in dallasisd.org/vendor. So when you type that, this is the page that you'll see. I recommend that you click on the new vendor registration quick reference card. That quick reference card will pretty much provide you with a bunch of information as it relates to getting registered as a Dallas ISD vendor. As you can see, it tells you the information that you're going to be asked before you even start the process. So if ever you get stumped in this process, you can always go back here to get additional information. The click on iSupplier URL, I'm going to highlight that here in a minute. So this is where you would go to start the actual registration process with the portal. But as we've discussed, we're not going to do that until we have all of the information that we're going to need in order to get the registration process. Otherwise, it will get timed out and then you'll have to start over. And we don't want to do that. So we're going to make sure that we have all of our information together. And I just want to kind of check with our attendees to see if anyone is currently in the process of completing this registration process, because this is going to determine the speed that I go. So if you are completing your registration process at this particular moment, as we go through this step-by-step process, please raise your virtual hand. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started. I don't see anyone raising their hand, so you can always go back and check this video to complete your vendor registration. So you're going to click on that link. And as you can see, this is the prospective supplier registration, the vendor registration portal. And there are some information here that's letting you know if you have any questions or you want to send an email, please send it to suppliers@dallasisd.org. Now we're going to put our supplier's name, and you want to make sure that whatever information you put, it all matches. So your W-9 matches your vendor registration, everything matches. So we're going to put our company name, and our company name for today will be Point Accumulator, because we like to accumulate points so we can win bids, right? And so, okay, it looks like we're going to just put that down. And remember, we're not going to include dashes in our text ID number. And also, you see these little asterisks on the page. Those are the ones that we want to make sure that we complete. Okay, so just focus on the ones that have the little asterisk next to the sign, the information. Okay, so, and then of course we want to put our email address, and we're just going to put Stephanie@pointaccumulator.com. And if you guys missed our Google event that we had a couple weeks ago on how to obtain a professional email address for your business, let me know, and I'll make sure I send you over that information so that you will know how to inexpensively get a professional email for your business. Okay, so we have all of the information that we need, and now we're going to move on to the next step. Okay, so now we have information here about our EIN number. So apparently I need to put another EIN number in there. So you see how we received that error message? So that's the type of message that you will receive if you do not have the appropriate information, like I apparently do not have. So okay, so let me, I think okay, there we go. My computer screen is freezing up. So let me okay, so
You got an error on top.
yeah,
An error message.
yeah. So with that, we're gonna have to utilize a different number. Now, hopefully we won't get timed out. So if we get timed out, we will definitely have to restart.
So this is a good point to kind of talk about really quick. This error message that she got up here where it says no IRS match found, 10 entered is not currently issued. So our system automatically runs a 10 check, which is verifying the business name, or in this case, a supplier name against the taxpayer ID. And so the taxpayer ID number could be your social or your EIN number. So what it does when it's checking it, it's verifying that this name does match this tax ID number. So if you come up with this error message, you just have to make sure that your name is spelled, the taxpayer name matches the taxpayer ID. So however it is that you pay your taxes, that's the name that needs to be on the supplier name. So if you're using your social, it can't be, 25 letters. It will need to be, Stephanie and then her last name. So it has to match in order for it to pass to the next step.
So we've gotten past the first stage, and again, hopefully we won't time out. And so this particular area, you have to have at least one entry is required. So we're just going to click on the create and just put 9400 North Central Expressway, Dallas, Texas, the information here. And these 3 boxes here will let the district know if this is your purchasing address, your payment address, your RFQ only address, or you identify what you want it to be. Okay, so then you hit apply, and then there's that information. And then you have a contact directory, which is already populated based off the information that you applied on the first page. So you definitely want to make sure that you provide that information in there. Now, this is the information, this is just the MWBE information that you're being asked. So if you're a minority-owned business, you would check that and you would identify your ethnicity there. If you're a woman-owned business, you would check this. If you have any of these types of certifications, you would check that. If you don't have this other information, that's okay. But we definitely want to make sure that you identify whether or not you're woman-owned or you're minority-owned. And like I said, these other categories, you can also check the box as well. And see, so for the products and category services, this is where you would need your number, your category number. So we're going to click that, and there's a couple different ways you can search for it. You can search here or look here and then click what's acceptable and scan down through here. And you can also search. So you can click here to search. So for the purpose of this webinar, we're just going to select a couple of different ones. We're going to select the conference one and then also industry certifications. And then we're going to click apply. So we're almost done with this vendor registration. We're already at step 2 of 4. And that's why, again, it's so important to have that information readily available. And now we're going to do our bank account information, and we're going to click on the create button here. And then we're going to click on existing branch. And then we're going to put our routing number in here. So as you can see, it's asking for the routing number first. So we want to make sure that you have your routing number before you actually have your account number, to make sure that it goes in the order that the system is actually requesting. And so for the routing number, we're going to include this number. And then if you tab, it's going to automatically provide, it's going to do its search thing and provide the information. And so you'll have that, and it shows here, once you click the little search icon, it shows here the bank, and then that's what we're going to select. So we're going to select that, and then you would include your account number here. And then you're going to hit apply. So again, we've done our general information here that included our tax ID number. The tax ID has to match the company name that you have set with the IRS, which should also match the W-9. Remember, all of the information must match across the board. So we've included that information. Now we're going over to step 3. Is there a conflict of interest? And it says, please use the link to review the conflict of interest form. Prior to doing this, you used to have to complete the conflict of interest form, but the iSupplier department has made it so convenient for the vendors now that the only thing you really need to attach is the W-9 form. Okay, and so here's the different forms here for your convenience. So if you click either one of those, you can find the forms, just in case you're not sure what a conflict of interest really is. Is there any felony convictions to report? No. And then the banking information. So this is where it's going to ask you what payment information you want to use. So we want electronic funds transfer, because that we provided our information. And then also, what email address do you want your payment information to go to? So let's just put accounting at 25 letters. That works. And then what's the supplier type? We have athletic official, board member, tax authority, other, parents, professional organization, school, student scholarship, supplier, goods and service, or workers' comp. So for this purpose of the webinar, we're going to go with goods and services. Now this asks if you're affiliated with any of the local chambers, which are our strategic partners. And so let's say, we'll say the Dallas Black Chamber of Commerce and the Dallas Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. And now it's asking about 1099, if the 1099 form is applicable to you. If it is, you would just click this box. Are you bidding as a joint venture? If you're bidding as a joint venture, you would click this box. For the legal structure of your business, that's how your business is looked at with the IRS and how you submit it when you submitted your EIN number. And so you could just click whatever the affiliation is with that. And then you just want to click, and guess what? We're almost done. We're at step 4 already. So this is why it's so important to have your W-9 already completed and uploaded and saved in your computer. So when you click add attachment, you can go ahead and choose file, and then select your W-9 from your file, and then hit apply. And then it will appear here. Now I'm not gonna go and submit, because we don't want to do that, because this is a dummy account. So we're not going to do that, because I don't want the team over at iSupplier to come and get me. So for having them do extra work. And so that's pretty much the process. Now we'll go back just so you guys can see how easy it is to complete your registration. So I'm going to go back just in case you guys have any questions for me as it relates to this process. And so here's the back button. So if I click back on this particular page, it talks about the supplier profile attributes. We already discussed that if you need a copy of the W-9 form, it's here. If you need a copy of the conflict of interest form, it's here. If you need a copy of the felony conviction form, it's here. But we already said that we're going to have that information readily available. And so I'm going to invite Michelle to come back and talk to us about this portion of the page.
Okay. So I do want to mention really quick, on the top right corner, there is a button that says save for later. And so because this does tend to time out within 2 minutes, I understand, and we all understand, things come up, we get distracted, or we get a phone call. And if you know that you have to step away, I would click that save for later. Save for later will then generate a link. It'll close this out and it'll generate a link, and then you can access your registration again through that link. If you do not click save for later and you walk away, or you take a phone call and you just forgot, you know, we're human, and we come back, it's just going to disappear. And then you'll have to probably call us, and then we can send it back to you. We'll send you a link to access your registration again. But to avoid any of that, you could just click save for later. And again, that link will pop up, and then you can access it once you're ready to complete. On this page, it is very important that you answer the conflict and the felony conviction questionnaire. Without those answers, your registration will be delayed or rejected if they are not answered. If they are not answered and you attach the form, which you have the option to do that, we will review the forms as well. But it's best that you just answer the questions, because there are different versions of the forms out there that we don't accept. And so, to be better safe than sorry, just answer the questions here. For your banking, it is very important that the email address you use on banking it has to do with, I guess, if your accounts payable department, whoever handles the financing piece of it, because this is where you'll get your emails in regards to payments. So when we do begin doing business with you, and we're ready to send out your payment, you will get an email stating this is the purchase order, this is how much we're paying. You'll have your whole detailed summary on your payment. This email address can be different from your point of contact, or it could be the same. It's up to you, but just know that everything will be then sent to the same email address. So just be cautious of it if you want everything to the same email address. But that's how this piece of it works. Also at the bottom, when Stephanie mentioned the 1099 option, it is imperative that if that's the way you have your business set up, that you please select that. So that way we have to do our part on the back end when we're completing your registration to make sure that the tax and reporting pieces that we have to complete are done correctly. If they're not, then somebody might have some issues at the end of the year, the beginning of the year, when it's time to report taxes. So please make sure that you check that box if you are reporting 1099.
All right, thanks, Michelle. And I also wanted you to kind of talk a little bit about this section here. So, for example, when you look at this, you don't see anything that specifically says construction.
Correct.
So what should a vendor do if they're registering as a construction company?
It will also be supplier goods and services. If you can drop the box down one more time. Yeah, so here it will always be construction. It would always be supplier goods and services. If you're not sure which one to pick, you can either select other, or again, supplier goods and services for the sake of this call, I would assume all the vendors on here would be for goods and services. Now, if you're an athletic official or if you're legal services, it would be professional services. Or if it has to do with like nursing or doctors or anything to that nature, it would be professional services. But for the most part, it will always be supplier goods and services.
Awesome. Okay, awesome. Thank you. And so thank you so much for adding that, Michelle. And so as we continue to go back, I definitely want to encourage Michelle and Victor both to chime in to add any additional information that is necessary for our vendors to be successful in this process. So I also want to point out over here where it says name as shown on your W-9 if different than previous page. So remember I said what you want to do in this moment is be preventive. So any information that you can include to prevent something from being kicked back. So make sure your information is the same across the board. So nothing can be said about what you didn't or did do because you did it, or everything's the same. Okay, so I definitely wanted to make sure that I highlighted that in this process. And so I also want to make sure that if you guys have any questions, this is the time to ask your questions because we have the iSupplier team on with us today. And so we want to make sure you get your questions answered. But it's a pretty simple process and it's pretty quick. So then we have our address book. Now, Michelle, can this particular address book have different addresses, and what are some of the common addresses that you've seen used in this particular area?
Yes. Okay. So in the address book, it is very common to have more than one address listed. So if your business has a address where you only, I guess in an instance, there's like in a corporation, you have your headquarters and then you have your different markets, right? And so, and different markets have different salespeople or directors or whatnot. So let's say in this instance, 25 Ladders has their main headquarters address, but they want their purchase orders and information to do with orders to go to a different address, something local, right? Because that local salesperson or director is in charge of this area. So you could add a different address and it could just be for purchasing address only. So, or in this case, yeah, select the purpose.
Oh, let me.
I'll go to the other one. Okay, there you go. Okay, so here, these are just different purposes of this address that you want to select. So there's so many options, but the most important piece, and to be very clear, because I know this one seems like a lot of options and where you would go, but the most important piece would be up on that top right corner where it says purchasing address, payment address, and then RFQ only address. So purchasing address signifies this is where you want your purchase orders to go. This is the address that you want all your purchase orders to relate to. It could also be the same address that's on your quotes and your invoices. Now, if you have a different address for payments, your invoice must state that as well. So you can have one address for purchasing, and then at the bottom, it can say, please make payments to, a second address. Make sure that you select payment address as well. So if one is for purchasing and one is for payment, you have to make it clear, because once it gets through accounts payable has to verify that the purchase order address matches the address in the system, and it only comes up the way you selected. So yeah, we have to, yeah. So, and one can be for both. One can be purchasing and payment, or like I said, more of the corporations have different addresses for purchase and payments depending on the areas that they're doing business in.
And then I believe this contact directory is kind of what you mentioned earlier, as it relates to making sure that if someone leaves your company, that you update that information here. So
Correct.
you can always add additional employees here by hitting this create button and then adding their information, all of their details here. And then
Correct.
therefore, you will definitely have an updated.
So let's go back to this contact really quick. So can we do the update contact? Okay, so here, this contact, it was automatically selected here on the bottom left where it says create user account for this contact. If you were to submit several contacts and you wanted each one of them to have access, you would want to make sure that you select this box. So if Stephanie were to go back and add a different contact, the box will not be checked. You will have to manually check it for additional contacts if you want them to have access to this account. We recently found out that bid notifications are going out to in alphabetical order. So if Stephanie is a contact and I'm a contact, I will get the notification because my name begins with an M. So you have to be just be careful on that, because we just found that out recently, that whoever is the first in alphabetical order in your contact list would be the one who gets the bid notification. So that's the only thing on that. Your contacts can have multiple purposes. Not everyone has to have access to your account. And I wouldn't recommend that everyone has access to your account either, because you want to keep track on who has access to make changes, which is very important, because anyone who has access to your account will have access to change address. It will have access to change banking information. They will have access to change commodity codes. So again, this is for your business and for the benefit of your business, and we want to make sure that any changes are for the good of your business.
Awesome. Okay, and again, we talked about the minority and women business classification, and just note that the MWBE information carries out throughout your entire proposal process and throughout your entire RFP process, from the registration part to when you start responding to solicitations. And if you notice down here at the bottom, it lets you know the district recognizes the certifications from these particular entities. You can also visit the MWBE website for additional information and further clarification on that. So I just wanted to make sure I pointed that out. And as you can see, this is where I added the products and category services. So this is where you would indicate what your business does. This is how the district would know, okay, this is what your business does. And this is how your business is attached to the bid notifications. It's based on this particular code here. Okay. And so we want to make sure that you guys are aware of that.
Yeah, and I would just add to that one more time. If you're not sure if a category code pertains to your business, I would still select it, because you never know what bids go out or how a buyer will filter that bid into what category code. So I will always, if you're not sure, just go ahead and select it, because there's no harm in selecting as many category codes as you want. That just means more opportunities or more notifications on bids that you won't miss out on. Also, this is not the only form of bid notification. We do have them posted on the website. So let's say you are not receiving bid notifications, definitely want to reach out to us and let us know, like, hey, I'm not receiving anything, so we can double check on what category codes you're using. But the website does list all the current bids that are out on the streets right now that aren't advertising. And they also are advertised in the Dallas Morning newspaper as well.
Yes. And while Michelle was talking, I was kind of just jotting some descriptions so you can see that you can also browse by the category, the code itself, which is here. And this is the description here, or you could type in your description. Now, again, you may not find the correct fit. So you would just have to pick one that closely matches your business. And then you might want to play around with the wording. So like if I put in nonprofit and I put it all together, it doesn't come up. But if I separate the two words, it comes up. So sometimes you have to just play around with it, or just take the time to browse through here. But as Michelle indicated, the category codes are on the website, on the procurement services website. So you can view that before you start the process, so you can thoroughly look, because that's why I don't like taking tests, because it's like when you're under the gun and you're being timed, you kind of, because you want to rush through here and say, okay, let me see if I can find what I'm looking for, especially if you type it in and you don't find it. So don't just give up immediately. And like Michelle said, just pick the closest thing to it. So a prime example, so I'm going to go back and I'm going to type food, because sometimes, we have catering companies, and the food is, they have some specific things here: snacks, produce, paper, juice, ice cream, which is my favorite, frozen, dry, dairy, milk, cheese, bakery. And say, for instance, you say, well, I don't really see what I offer here. You might want to select something that's closely related to what you have to offer. So therefore you can have some type of code in here. And again, my tip was, if your code is not found here, you can always make sure that you are proactive with looking to see what opportunities are available. And so we're going to go back here. And then, of course, the bank account information, we got that squared away. And then, as Michelle said, there's always that save for later button. And then I don't think it may not go further back. So this is when we first started. Okay. So this is when we first started. And you can kind of do this because we haven't hit submit, right? So once you hit submit, that changes the game, right, Michelle? So once you hit submit, that changes the game. So Michelle, let's talk a little bit about, after they hit submit, how do they go through and make changes and updates at that point?
So after they hit submit, it goes through an approval process. Victor, which is our first approver, he goes and verifies his portion of his approval responsibilities. And then it goes through a second approval. Once the second approval final reviews it and approves registration, you will then get an email notification saying, thank you, you have been approved here, and you'll get your vendor number. And there should be a link on there on how to access the login site. And then you'll log in. Your username will be this email here on this first page. So in this case, Stephanie's username would be stephanie@25ladders.org. That will be her username. Again, you'll receive an email notification saying, thank you, you have now been approved. You're now a registered vendor. Here's your vendor ID number, and then your username will be your email. If for any reason that there's a delay in your registration where we need additional information or updated form, we would reject it, and you'll get an email notification for that explaining what we need you to update in order to approve your registration. But for the most part, it's really simple. It's really not a whole lot to it. It's really easy. So
yeah,
normally we approve within 24 to 48 hours. 99% of the time is 24 hours. So it's not a long process at all.
awesome. Okay, so let's talk a little bit. Thank you so much, Michelle. So let's talk a little bit about some of these questions we have in here. So we are going to answer some questions and see how we can help you guys, okay? So let's go ahead and get these questions answered. And So let's see. Okay, so for those of you who have previously submitted for vendor registration, you've submitted it. I would probably need a little bit more information from you in order to be able to further assist you. So if you've completed your vendor registration and you were approved. So I see a couple, so Sherry, if you can let me know if you were actually approved for that, then I can further assist you with that information. And so we are currently still streaming live on Facebook. So I'm going to go ahead and end the Facebook stream. So if you guys have any questions, for those of you who are watching us on Facebook, please do not hesitate to contact us. For those of you who are live on this particular event, we're going to continue on with the session. So thank you guys for Facebook for watching. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact us. Thank you so much. Okay, so for those of you who are still hanging out with us on the live version of this webinar, it is still being recorded and you will receive the questions and the recording for this particular webinar. So Sherry, you said, how can you check on your application that you submitted in April? You have not received any bids. Again, that's why I stress the importance of being proactive, to not wait for bid notifications to come through because the category codes could be different. Also, understanding the district's contract terms can be very different as well, because the contract terms are 3 to 5 years. So if you've missed that window, then that's probably why you have not received any bid notifications, because you will only receive bid notifications for opportunities that are available on the website. So I hope that answers your question, Sherry. If it did not, please do not hesitate to let me know. And so you had something else, Michelle?
Yeah, so I did see Sherry's question in regards to Forward I Go. You did get approved back in April as well, so you should have got an email notification. Sometimes it does go to spam, so I will recommend everyone to always check your spam box, because sometimes those emails do tend to go there and you won't see a notification. But you did get approved on April 22nd. So it's there, your account is there in our system.
Awesome, thank you. So what about that customer service, Sherry? You got your response right away. So thank you so much for asking your question. Okay, perfect. Okay, so let's see some of the other questions we got. No, Nicole, I'm so glad you asked that question. So Nicole's question is, some certifications have a long turnaround. Should we wait for our certification before applying? No. If you see an opportunity that is available, please do not hesitate to respond to that opportunity. You're not required to be certified to do business with Dallas ISD. You're not required. Anyone, no matter what their ethnicity or gender is, can apply to do business with Dallas ISD. It doesn't matter if you're certified or not certified. We definitely want to encourage you to become certified, but it's not a requirement to do business with Dallas ISD. So Nicole, thank you so much for asking that question. And so it looks like Barbara has a question here. Who do we contact to fix a PO?
So I do have an answer for this one.
Okay.
If it says final close and it's not supposed to be final close and you have not been paid, I would definitely reach out to the department that you are working with for that order. So whoever you gave that quote to, I would reach back out to them and let them know that you have not been paid. And then they should be the ones reaching out to accounts payable to get that fixed for you and get you paid.
Awesome, thank you. And so Alex is wanting to know, he changed his bank account information, but it still says it's pending. So should he just contact by email?
Yes, he should contact us.
Okay, so Alex, you can either send me an email if that's more convenient for you, and then I will work with the iSupplier team to get it resolved for you, okay? Thank you so much for bringing that to our attention. And let's see, we have another question. How do we edit this information if we have added some or missed a few? So
The information on your supplier account?
are you, are you referring to the iSupplier portal? Okay, so we'll wait for her to respond to that. And so this other question is there a webinar for how to become a vendor? This is actually the webinar to become a vendor. Now, if you're if you're referring to how to become an awarded vendor, that's just as simple as responding to one of the solicitations. So that's the difference. So, and then in order for you to become an awarded vendor, that means you have been awarded a contract. And I definitely want to make sure that you guys walk away with that understanding, because but you're in the right place for vendor registration, which is part of one of the first steps to become an awarded vendor. Okay, so Alex is saying he is awaiting a badge date. He has a badge ID on the website, but he's waiting on a badge date. So is that you guys, Michelle, or would he have to talk to, oh, okay, that's you guys.
That is us.
Alex, go ahead and just send me an email with all your concerns, and then I'll work with the iSupplier team to get it resolved for you, okay?
I think I could answer the question in regards to edits or adding anything to your account. So once you've been approved vendor, you can always log back in. And if you lose the link, there is a quick reference card on the procurements page of the website that says for existing vendors. So you would need to click existing vendors, and there'll be a link there to access the login site. And then you can log in and make any edits or changes to your account.
Okay, and so Tommy wants to know, where do I find the category codes for goods and services and construction? So
That would,
go ahead, Michelle.
no, that would be on the procurement page on dallasisd.org. You would go to departments, you would go to procurement services, and then there would be a tab there on the left that says doing business with the DISD. And it will say,
Here we got it up here.
yes.
Doing business with district, and then if you click on awarded suppliers and bids, you'll see the category codes. And so all of the category codes that the district works with, regardless if it's goods or services or construction, will be found here. And you'll just have to scan through here and identify your codes. That's a great question. Okay, let's see what other questions we have. We are an awarded vendor and we are going to complete the vendor registration. Okay, so, okay, now this would be my question, because if you're an awarded vendor, you should already be a registered vendor. And so I'm kind of confused on that a little bit. So if you can help get clarification on that, or provide some additional information either in the Q&A box or the chat box. And I see that you're currently MWBE in Illinois. How can you become certified in Dallas? That's another conversation. We do have on our website information on how to become certified as an MWBE within the state of Texas. And so if depending on the certification agency that your Illinois certification is through, so say for instance, if it's through the Minority Supplier Development Council, you may have reciprocity as it relates to being certified here in Dallas. So it just depends on the certification agency that you're currently registered through. What did you have to add, Michelle?
So sometimes there are vendors that are awarded and not registered. And that could cause an issue down the line when it's time to do business with you. So if you're not registered and you have been awarded on a contract, 9 times out of 10, it's going to delay the PO process. So it is imperative. I've always suggested to get registered prior to submitting a bid. So that way, when you are awarded, everything after that can run smooth, right? You get your POs, you get your payments, everything is just running smooth after that. But in this case, If you have not registered, you will not be getting any POs soon until you do register. So please, yeah, get that completed for us.
Yes, yes, that is for sure. And I guess I was confused because normally, like we let vendors know, you don't necessarily have to be a registered vendor to submit your bid, right? But usually right after that process, that's when you complete the vendor registration process. So like Michelle said, you definitely want to make sure you go ahead and get that done. Okay, and then Sherry wanted to know about how to get to the iSupplier site. So I'm going to type into the chat the URL that you can go to. So it's dallasisd.org/vendor. And so once you go there, you'll click on the new vendor registration link, and then it'll take you to that, or click on the card and it'll take you there.
Also on the website, I wanted to add, when Stephanie went to the website and she clicked on doing business with Dallas ISD, there's also a link there that says vendor links, and right there. And so on this page, you have everything that you could possibly, and I hope, refer to if you have any questions. If you don't decide to call us, I would rather you call me and I can just walk you through everything for you. But if you would rather just find it yourself, on this page, you can find everything. So you have your vendor registration access, you have your quick reference cards, whether it's for new vendor or existing vendors. The existing vendor is going to have the link to access your account, so where you can log in. It also explains payments, how that works. It explains the Wells Fargo credit card if you decide to choose that. So it's a lot of good information out here. If you ever wanted to just read up on it, it's there.
Yes, yes. So definitely make sure you peruse through the website to get the information that you would need. And then if you can't find it, just feel free to contact one of us here at the district and we will help you with that. And so Michael wanted to know, do we have to upload copies of certifications? No, you do not. The only thing that you have to upload when you're completing your vendor registration is what? The W-9 form, okay? So we want to make sure you guys have that. And the iSupplier team has made it so convenient for you guys to download those forms right there on the site. I mean, you don't even have to go out of the site to get those forms downloaded. But I do recommend that you get the W-9 form, and you can obtain the W-9 from the IRS site, irs.gov. And then you can get that form downloaded and filled out. And then therefore, once you get to the vendor registration portion, that part will already be done. Okay, Crystal, good job. Crystal says she just submitted her registration. Great job. So I'm going to go over here to the Q&A section just to make sure we have all of our questions answered for all of you who are still with us. Let's see. Okay, as it relates to, so Julie wanted to know about sending a link to where vendors can submit proposals. That is the virtual or electronic bidding system. So that's a different process, but let me see, since I'm already here on the site, let me go over here back to the site. This is the same site that Michelle and I were talking to you guys about earlier, just a few minutes ago. So this same site, which you can access by typing in dallasisd.org/vendor, you will get to this site, which will have the vendor links, new vendor registration, existing vendor registration. And this, if it's down like this, you would just click on bid submission process. And this is the instructions for how to bid. And then if you want to submit electronically, you would click on this little icon right here.
Now I would add to that, if you click on the current opportunities tab, right underneath it. So here we have, you would find the current opportunities, whether it's for supplier vendor opportunities or bond construction opportunities. When you go through this list, there will be a sourcing number that you will need to jot down in order to submit through the electronic bidding site. So in this case, like for this first one, applicant tracking system, the sourcing number is 47863. That's the number you'll need to use in reference when you do the electronic bidding. You will not use this JA206-988. So you'll need to go through this website to get that sourcing number if you plan to submit electronically.
Yes. And we have hosted electronic bidding webinars, and we will probably schedule another electronic bidding webinar to further assist you guys with the electronic bidding process. But on this particular site, or no, not this one, but the site we were on previously, it did provide instructions on how to bid electronically. So make sure you look at that before you even get started. I would not get started with that electronic bidding process until you read that frequently asked questions and instructions on how to actually submit. Okay, and let's see what other questions. Okay, so Michelle, how do they update their EIN number if they have a new EIN number in the iSupplier portal?
Okay, so if it's the same business name, and let's say you were using your social and now you have an official EIN number to do business with, I would give us a call or email us to let us know, that you need to change your EIN number, because that's one of the few things that the vendors do not have access in changing in their portal. So you would have to call us, and then we will ask you to update the system, your account with the new W-9 reflecting the new tax ID number, as long as it is the same company. So if it's a completely different name and a completely different tax ID number, we would suggest to create a new account. But again, contact us so that we can research and do our due diligence to make sure that we get you in the right direction.
Awesome. And so it looks like we have some other kind of detailed questions in the Q&A section. So I would ask for you to email one of us. And I know you guys already have my email address, so if it's more convenient for you to email me to get to the iSupplier team, I welcome that, and I'll help facilitate that communication for you. So if it's easier for you to do that, I'm fine with that, because some of your questions may require a little bit in-depth response, and they may have to look into it. So it may not be a response that they'll be able to provide to you during this particular webinar, but we definitely want to make sure that you have that option to be able to get your questions answered. And Michelle, it looks like, I think we're almost done with answering the questions. Let's see, we have.
You see a question says, I'm not able to edit the general information.
Right.
For this question, I have a follow-up question. Are you not able to access the general information, or what general information are you trying to edit? So with that one, I would reach out to us, email us, and that way we can walk you through it. Because again, there are some things that, like the email addresses on the site, on the address piece of it, they're not able to change. We only have access to change it. So there are some things that the vendors do not have access to. So again, just call us, email us, and we can help walk you through that.
Okay, so let's see. The other question is, to win a bid or to be awarded vendor, is it good to buy the stuff early? Any tips? I just want to make sure that I understand your question. So is your question saying you want to go ahead and pre-purchase some of the things that you want the district to procure from you prior to submitting a proposal? If that is what you're asking, my recommendation would be not to do that, because you want to make sure that you're going to be awarded a contract. The district has a unique contract terms and unique way of making sure that you get business with the district. So I would make sure that I will encourage you to make sure that you understand that particular process before you purchase anything. So I would not purchase anything prior to getting your information solidified with the district and making sure that you are an awarded vendor before anyone can even place orders. I definitely wouldn't want you to do that. So Are there any additional questions that we have? It looks like you guys have been great, asking some very, very important questions, asking some questions that would to help you and that could also help others here on the call. So before we close out, I just want to double check to see if there are any additional questions. I'm double checking here to make sure, because again, we appreciate you guys joining us today and we want to make sure we answer all of your questions. So at this time, I would like to invite Victor back to join myself and Michelle. And thank you so much, Victor, for adding for that. And so what I would like to do now is for you guys to provide our attendees with any words of advice on either doing business with Dallas ISD and or getting registered as a vendor. And so, Victor, let's go ahead and start with you.
Okay, no problem. Again, thank you so much for this opportunity. And we definitely encourage everyone that would like to be a vendor to definitely go into this website. We've done our best to make it very easy to go through, and we've tried to simplify the process for you to be able to become a vendor. And so as Michelle and Stephanie mentioned or forestated, we are here if you need any support, or we're going to add our information as well on the in the chat here. So just in case you need us, you can email us or call us, or of course, Ms. Stephanie know how to get in contact with us, and we'll be able to assist in any manner.
Awesome. So Victor, any words of advice for our aspiring Dallas ISD vendors?
Well, yes, sure. I would say definitely go for it. And then just as we forestated, you definitely want to have your W-9s and everything together. Upload that in and then make sure your contact information is good to go. And then if you want to do business, you have to register.
Awesome. And so Michelle, what about you?
I would say do it. I know that it can seem intimidating to do the vendor registration and to submit a bid, and those bid packets seem really huge, right? They look like 80, 90 pages, but it's not as intimidating as it might seem. And, you know, it's a risk, and I feel like it's a risk worth taking. So, you know, why not do business with the largest district in the Metroplex?
Absolutely.
I just say go for it. And if you have, and there's so many people here that are willing to help walk you through it. So there shouldn't be a reason why anyone here should miss an opportunity to do business with the district.
Awesome.
I have one more thing.
Okay, sure. One more.
We are currently sending out emails to update existing files. So if you can just please check your emails, maybe your spam. If you receive something, please just go in and update it, because after the third time, we are going to flag you, and it's going to, you know, again, delay purchase orders and payments. So please do not get stuck in that web. Just go in and update it, and we won't touch your account.
Well, if you guys don't want your accounts touched, I would recommend that you do as Michelle has suggested by responding to your emails if you're already currently a vendor. And if you're not currently a vendor, we definitely encourage you to get that vendor registration done. We have completely walked you through the entire process from start to finish. We encourage you to look at our opportunities page to see if there are any opportunities that are available for you. The Dallas ISD's contract terms are 3 to 5 years. So if you're unsure what that means, you can contact one of us and we will help you understand that process. But make sure you look at those opportunities and apply for those opportunities. We encourage you to do business with Dallas ISD. We want you to do business with Dallas ISD. So please do not hesitate to get registered as a vendor, because that's one of the starting processes for doing business with the district. So I just want to check before we close it out, because we are almost at our time. We're set to end this webinar at 2:30. It's now 2:29. So I just want to make sure that you have all the information that you need. I'm going to add my contact information in the chat for you, but if you are registered, you will also have my information within the emails that you receive. Again, I want to thank you guys so much for joining us today for the Dallas ISD's MWBE webinar on getting registered with Dallas Independent School District. I want to thank the iSupplier team. I want to thank Sherry Williams for allowing her team to participate in this particular webinar. I want to thank Victor and Michelle for joining me this afternoon to provide this amazing information for you guys to make it easier for you to go ahead and complete your vendor registration. Please do not hesitate to reach out to us if you have any questions. Thank you so much and have a wonderful day.